feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together, this is big thanks. Doing big things. We ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die, putting me in charge. I'm a general from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank, powered by Celsius Beverage. This is your first time tuning in. We do this show live every single Wednesday, right around 1 o'clock. You catch us at Shrimp Tank Boca on all our social media accounts, as well as the FAU College of Business pages as well. So each and every week, we come to you with the best and brightest entrepreneurs. Of course, this is the show where street smarts and book smarts collide, where we partner with the Florida Atlantic University. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin. So, Kevin, let's start this show off.
Yeah, great to be here for another week of the show. And this week we've got a fantastic guest for the students and the viewers and listeners out there, Robin Bresky, one of the state's most notable attorneys. Robin, you've done so many different things, but what I'm going to challenge you to do is deliver an excellent 60 seconds, no more, elevator pitch. We do this as the first thing on the show every single week. It's something we try to instill and teach in our students is how can you introduce yourself, your background, and overview in just a short amount of time? So, Robin, go ahead.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. I have been practicing appellate law for many, many years. I had my own practice for 22 years, and I merged with a New York firm called SSRGA about 4 years ago. And what we do in appellate world is if somebody loses at the trial level and they're trying to go to the next higher court because they are not happy with the order that came out below in all types of areas, civil, criminal, family, we take it to the next higher court. It involves a lot of brief writing and academic. It's very different than the strategic trial things that you would see on television. And I like to say we restore faith in the justice system, because if somebody loses at trial and they have a good appeal, we can often get that reversed and reverse their legal situation, or we sometimes try to uphold the opinion of the lower court. And that's what appellate law is all about. And that's what I have been doing for several decades now.
Nice. Fantastic. All right. You want to kick this show off with a little bit of a game?
You know, this season, we're doing something very unique. Last week, we played Jeopardy, and the students are part of their assignments is to create a game show. We're the first show that I'm aware of in the world that has 30, 40 FU students sitting in during this show. And every week when they go to class, some of them have to put together an assignment for this live show. So we're going to bring up Florida Atlantic University student, and we also have a contestant. So let's start with our contestant that is joining us as well.
Yeah. So
Introduce yourself. Go.
Yeah. So myself, Honey, I'm from India. So I'm into FAU College of Engineering, but I'm very much passionate about FAU College of Business. I got inspired by Dr. Kevin Cox, like with his passion, with his story, and going forward, I might work with him. But coming to me, I'm into social media content. Back in India, I built a brand to 50K followers, and I scaled a startup. And in US, I'm building my personal brand, reaching out to different people. And I do interview people in Miami, Brickell, like everywhere. So yeah, slowly this is about myself, and let's see how it grows. And going forward, I want to start my own startup. I want to interview billionaires in US, and I want to scale it like into a good company. So this is about myself.
Okay. We have a great contestant joining us on the show. Let's hear the game show.
Okay, so this is pitch or pass in the hot seat. And let's just jump right in. So the category is startup decisions. A venture capitalist offers $250,000, but they want a board seat. Pitch or pass, and why?
I'm going to pass this to Kevin.
Yeah, pitch. Go for it. Right? You're going to have to give up some managerial control and some governance mechanisms if you want to bring in that income, right? That investment onto your table. An investor, you have fiduciary responsibility to that investor. And in order for them to ensure they get that, they want some managerial and governance control. It's not unreasonable to give them one board seat in lieu for their investment.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Next is your first customer asks for a heavy discount in exchange for publicity. Picture pass, and why?
Oh, Robin's going for it.
Okay. Well, I would say definitely take them up on that, because if you're starting out, publicity is something you definitely want. And I think that would be even more important than paying when you're getting rolling out the door.
Nice.
I
Thank you.
agree. Great answer.
Okay, next one. You find a co-founder who's amazing at tech but has never worked in a team. Picture pass, and why?
Tread lightly. So often everybody goes to events and everybody talks on stage about finding a tech co-founder, but what they don't show you is the divorce rates, right? How many tech co-founders join forces with others and then end up failing? The rate is extremely high because people quickly jump to give 50% of their business away and they don't know enough about the person. I think you have to start slowly, do work together, and really find out more about the person. I've heard too many stories where it ends up in a disaster.
And then they go to the attorney's office.
And then she bills quite high rates.
All right. Well, I know we've got Robin, an attorney, on the show, but Gabby, I'm going to need a ruling on that. I thought you were pretty explicit, right? He had to say pitch or pass, and he kind of middled it, right?
Ooh,
So I'm going to
wow.
say that's an L. All right.
I would say he pitched it. He pitched it pretty well.
Oh, he's always out to
Okay.
get me over here.
I'm going to the appellate court.
He is.
This category is market trends. An AI-driven fitness coach in 2025. Picture pass, and why?
That's too long. Pass.
Pass, and why?
Yeah, because the investments in AI have been made in AI. Don't invest in kind of models. Invest in business solutions, specific business solutions. Think about the pipeline and the actual needs of the customers and cautiously tread in any new AI investments. Use what exists, use it to solve real business case problems and generate revenue. That's it.
Nice, thank you. The next one is a delivery drone service that brings late night snacks to students. Picture pass.
Pitch.
Pitch?
So I'm not sure how many of you seen that the Domino's, like it delivers with the man like who delivers the pizza instantly within few minutes. How many of you seen it? So
Yeah. I've
yeah.
seen it.
So I feel like this model works, and it might be the game changer with the drones, and even more, when many of them are using drones. So I feel like it's gonna be a game changer.
Nice, thank you. The last one is a subscription app that gives students discounts on food, fitness, and nightlife. Picture pass.
Pass. It's been tried a ton of times, even in my own classes.
Yeah, I
A
think
lot
we
of
had one in
different semesters.
FAU Tech Runway, right?
Yeah, it's hard to monetize. It's very hard to monetize. It could be a good service. It could be a good hobby, but we're here in the Shrimp Tank to talk about business, and it's a bad business.
Okay. The last category is founder dilemmas. Firing your first hire when they aren't performing well anymore. Picture
Okay,
pass.
pitch. Yes, you have to hire slowly and fire fast. And if they're not performing well, they need to go.
Nice. Thank
I
you.
think the legal world does a really good job at that. I notice they don't let people linger that long. You're
Sometimes it
late.
depends.
You're not showing up in client meetings. Usually you have great systems in place.
Okay, next. Spending your last $1,000 either on making your podcast or your product better or marketing it. Picture pass.
Something's already gone wrong if it's your last $1,000.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if I want to answer this.
Yeah.
Your last $1,000.
Do something else.
I don't know if this is going to work out for you, but I'm gonna pitch and say, put it towards marketing. Right at that point in your journey, if you only have $1,000, you're not gonna do much with $1,000 for your product. So you might as well put in marketing. Try to get some sales. You could often sell ice to someone for a lot of money if you do it in a clever way on social media. So try to get that $1,000 to $25,000, and then take the $25,000 and put it towards your product.
Yeah.
And the last one is your business has no sales after 6 months. Do you pivot or keep grinding?
All right.
I'll do this in a real situation. I run the Owl app, right? It's on the chairs in this room. And, it kind of goes back to what Kevin was saying about starting a company where others have failed. And you have to be careful listening to all the guidance out there, because lots of times you don't know what the founder's position was. You don't know how much money they had. You don't know the relationships they had. And I can't tell you how many times I was told with Owl, you're absolutely crazy to bootstrap that style of business when you're going direct to consumer in a marketplace style platform. 99.5% of those platforms fail. Most of it is due to money. So often I say, you got to run with it, and, don't listen to all the noise around you. I commonly promote the aspect of getting guidance from other founders that have been in your shoes. So I think I answered that question. What was the end of the question? I kind of went on a tangent. What was the question?
Would you, your business has no sales after 6 months?
Oh, so I had no
pivot
sales
or-
after 6 months. That was my point I was making. And I kept going and going, and we just hit 10,000 profiles on the platform. So often you have to keep doubling down and take failure after failure and change your platform and pivot. That's where I was going with that. Thank you.
I just want to add few points. So even I have similar experience back in India. So I do agree with Jason. So within the 6 months, we can't expect any sales. So the thing is, we need to have some patience. So it takes time to figure out what all we need to do in the 6 months itself. So it hardly takes we need to have at least 1 to 2 years to get the proper sales. So I feel like, this is my opinion.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's the
Thank
end
you.
of Pitch
Great
and Pass
show.
in the Hot Seat.
All right. Way to go,
Absolutely.
Gabby.
And Kim, could you speak to that point a little deeper? Because I think it's important. A lot of people are trying too many new things as young entrepreneurs, I find, and they pivot too quickly to other businesses. They chase success, but they don't always realize that people are not telling you the full story, right? I see, I'm going to jump to Amazon sale products, or now I'm going to start, this at-home business. And I feel like people jump around a lot, where often they should stay in their lane and stay focused on their dream, on their mission of building that original product.
Yeah, there's something to be said for consistency and dedication and perseverance, right? Like unfortunately, a lot of that stuff you find people doing is heavily marketed, because the truth of the matter is the business that's actually viable, that's making money out there on the internet, is the business that's funneling people into those businesses. You'll find with a lot of these get quick overnight businesses, there's a ton of training things you can do. There's a bunch of people you can follow. There's a bunch of content you can consume. And the truth is, a lot of those people are actually making money. And they're not actually making money being an Amazon reseller. They're making money being learn to be a rich Amazon reseller, right?
Of course.
So you really want to be careful. Building anything of substance tends to take some time.
Yeah.
And energy, effort, resources, investments. If this stuff was so easy, everybody be doing it, and it would, that's how market works, right? The free market economy. Once everybody starts doing something, it gets more competitive and more difficult to do.
Of course. Okay, Robin, this part of the show, we want to learn about your past history. Tell us, you graduated from college, same place Kevin went, University of Florida.
Go
See that
Bears.
here. And then what happens after that? Tell us some of your journey, and then fast forward to the point, of course, where you decided, hey, I want to start my own firm.
So after college, I took a little time off, and I had my first job at a radio ratings research company. I'd interned with them, and I decided to go work with them. It was a competitor to Nielsen at the time. It's now a defunct company. I was there for a couple of years, and then decided I wanted to go to law school. At the time, I was married and pregnant with my first child when I moved with my then husband to upstate New York, and ended up moving from there to Chicago, and started law school when my son was 9 months old. And then I had my daughter in law school. I went to an evening program, graduated in 4 years, 2 children, and I had clerked at the state attorney's office. Well, it was actually in Chicago. I had clerked for them in the appellate division. Back then it was politically incorrectly called the mommy division. Learned appeals, came to Florida, ended up being a prosecutor down in Broward for a while, and then decided I wanted to start my own practice, and started an appellate practice in 2000. Had my own practice for 22 years, grew it to between 5 and 7 attorneys. It was a small practice, and then merged with a mid-sized New York firm about 4 years ago. So that's about it.
All right, let's talk about law school because I think it's particularly relevant for some of our business students, right? Business students, political science students, they have a tendency to, in some cases, probably more than some of our other colleges, be on that pre-law track or have that pre-law mindset. So I know there's at least a few listening who are thinking about going to law school. Now, law school's changed quite a bit since you went to law school. There are a lot more law schools, and one thing that law schools are really good at is making lawyers, right? So law
That's the
schools
idea.
make a lot of lawyers, but from my reading, that has had some negative implications on the job market. So what would your advice be for anybody who's thinking about a career in law and going to law school, given that the job market has been in a little bit of flux depending on the quality of the law school you go to and a few other factors?
Well, first of all, I think a lot of people go to law school these days and maybe don't have the intention of practicing law. Not everybody, but some people do. I think it can be a great background to have in business. I mean, I went straight into a legal job after graduating law school, but they don't really teach you how to practice law in law school, teach you how to think a little differently. I had a mentor once say that law school is like taking your brain out of your head, jumbling it around, and then putting it back in, and you just think differently, and you have different perspectives. You see things in a different way. And in evaluating a business and in working in a business, I don't think it hurts to have a law degree. I think it can definitely help.
No, I completely agree. I've worked with some business partners that never practiced law, but that had passed the bar and thought about it at some point, but then inevitably got into business. And in my experience, they've been immensely helpful the way they approach situations, and then having that underlying legal background to, raise up a red flag when we're going a little too fast and breaking too many things, as the nomenclature goes. It's always great to have one in the room with that kind of background, even if it's strictly a business environment. I'd agree.
But I would just say conversely, there's a lot of people graduating law school. If you think you want to own your own business, they don't also teach you how to own a business or how to run a law firm. So there's a lot of people that graduate with law degrees and they decide, I can't get a job. Maybe I'll just open up my own firm. It's very difficult to do that. First of all, you need to have the experience behind you in the practice of law. There's a lot of good lawyers out there, but there's also a lot of good lawyers that can't run a business, and that becomes very challenging.
Yeah, it's funny. We had a guest on a couple of years ago who built out a complete massive business, and really what he specializes in is helping attorneys run the business side and create a business, open their own law firm, because that's what he found. And he found that it was such a challenge. I always tell my students, like, don't look for a product, right? Look for a problem. And so there's so many attorneys that were never taught about how to run a business or create a business. Maybe I'll just do that instead of competing with all these other lawyers. And that turned into being a great business for him.
I've actually been using a business coach for the last almost 20 years, and it's been absolutely fantastic for me. I don't think I would have been able to be successful in the business aspect of it without that.
Yeah.
Looking back, what was the hardest thing running a business, right? So often, people say it's employees. Some people say it's marketing. What was it for you?
Well, I think for me, identifying what I was not good at and bringing people in to help with that. I'm a concept person. I'm good at marketing. I'm not a numbers person. I brought in a COO, and the type of things when you have a weakness somewhere, you want to make sure you're bringing people in that can complement you, not compete with you, but they can do the things that you are not good at.
And can you speak to just when you were able to focus on the business versus being in the business? I see one of the biggest issues with lawyers, as well as financial service professionals, accountants, is they always say, one day I'm going to change and focus on the business. But most of the time they're so busy doing the paperwork themselves and just the legal work in your situation. And then eventually that day never comes. So how did you kind of transition to focus on the business side of things?
So I think through this business coaching course, I learned fairly quickly that just being a good lawyer is not going to get you anywhere. In our circles, people like to say, I work the longest hours. And they sometimes say it as like a bragging, right? Well, this course I got into is you want to work the least amount of hours, hire the right people, leverage it so that you hire attorneys that are smarter than you, better than you, know what they're doing, and then hire people to do the other things around that. How I think I learned it just as I went along. You know, I started my own practice. I was doing it as my kids were growing. I worked out of the house for a while. And as soon as I felt like, hey, I got enough business coming in, I hired my first associate. And you got to take a risk. You got to go out on a limb and bring people in. And
it is hard. That
yeah.
first time I did it when I was in my 20s, I said, I have to do this. I went to a conference and they're like, stop doing $15 an hour work. Back then it was $10 an hour work. They're like, if you make this as a financial service professional, like, what are you doing paperwork still? And I went home after that conference, said, I got to do it. I put a resume back in the day. It was Craigslist even worked back in the day, not as much as Indeed these days. And I hired someone for 10, 15 hours. And it started with an intern. Then it started to someone part-time. And it is hard to just put yourself in that position because then people are coming in and asking you questions and you have to be there. You can't be late. You have to show up on time. And that's where people struggle, that first hire. But once you get one under your belt, then the second and third one is a lot easier. And then inevitably you're able to hire full-time people, which then comes back to putting out fires. What's it like putting out fires where you have to fire someone, right? Or just, you know, people are late all the time or not showing up for your clients. Like you bring them into your firm and you're like, that's my biggest client. How did you not tell them you were running behind schedule? Can you kind of share some of that stuff?
Well, first of all, you have to have the right people in place. You have to make sure they have a good work ethic. Listen, in the business of law, sometimes it's the clients that are difficult and unreasonable and demanding, and we have to do our best to service the clients. But getting back to what you were saying about, you know, how do you know, when to hire and when to do that? We have a commodity in the legal profession, just like any other commodity. We sell time. That's what we sell. So the people that are the most successful, I think, in the legal business figure out how to manage their time, and whatever the tasks are that can be sent down to the lowest skill level, whether it be the paralegal or the assistant or whatever it is, you want to make sure that time that the senior managing partner or the owner is managing the time the best use of their skill. So if I'm billing out at, say, $6.50 an hour, I don't want to be doing some administrative work or doing my bookkeeping. So we sell time, just like that's the only business I know, because that's how
I have an app that sells time as well. Right, Gavin?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of time, and after this, why don't we take some questions from the student audience, see what they've got to ask today. But speaking of time, we had a great seminar yesterday focused on Gen AI for business. How are you and your firm, if you are, leveraging and utilizing AI? I understand ChatGPT is pretty good at the bar. So is that something you've implemented? And if so, how?
So we're starting to. The legal profession is notoriously behind the curve of technology and has been historically. So I am not the best one with regards to that, but I'm starting to learn it a little bit, and I will be doing it more so as time goes on. But what I would say, we have to be careful in the legal world. What happened a couple of years ago when this, first came out, one of my attorneys did a brief using ChatGPT, and it was beautiful. It came out with this great analysis and everything was perfect. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a time saver. But when we went back to check the citations to make sure that the cases we were citing were correct, they were all phantom and they were all made up. Ooh, and there's been, some talk in the industry of you got to be really careful, because you can really be disciplined, by sending in something that's not your work product.
Yeah, chat is notoriously questionable when it comes to citations and references. We had a startup company applying for an NIH grant that did something very similar. And in this instance, it was close. It was closer than it sounds like what you got. But the names and the dates and the titles of the articles were all jumbled. Right. So like wrong author, last name, wrong year, but right article. And then the next one would be right name, but they didn't write this article. They wrote the other article. And the whole thing was a disaster. And of course, that got flagged and they didn't get that grant.
So the way we're using it in the legal industry in general is like a first year associate. And you got to check the work and you've got to make sure it's correct. But everything that I'm hearing is just like in the rest of the world, AI is not going to replace people. But if you don't know AI and you're not comfortable with it, you're going to be replaced by somebody that is comfortable with it.
Yep, that's the same thing. That's the same type of warnings I give to our current students.
Okay, this segment of the show, we're going to have some of the Florida Atlantic University students come on up and ask you questions. So if you're in the audience, feel free to walk on down. And of course, grab a Celsius as your prize for asking a question. And while we're waiting for students to come on up, Robin, how do you separate time and money when it comes to marketing? I found a lot of professional services, financial advisors, accountants, lawyers specifically, really struggle with that because they always look at time and money together. But then there's an opportunity where there's not really a money element. It could be coming on this podcast as an example. And sometimes they don't do a good job on marketing because the time and money thing gets in their head too much.
Well, I think you have to be consistent with the marketing because, with the idea of porpoising where you're marketing, then you start working, especially if you have a smaller group, and then you're not marketing, you don't have anything coming into the pipeline. So I think you have to try to keep it consistent, work on your time management, and, I say 3 opportunities a day to reach out to somebody or go to lunch with somebody. You got to just keep it consistent. And then we use a marketing firm to help us with those efforts.
I like the area of keeping it consistent because so often professionals don't. They do it once a month and then they forget and they say tomorrow, and then their business dries up and they just have excuses. But when I look at the most successful people in all those categories, typically that they put it in an hour slot in their day.
That's right.
And they do it. Day in and day out.
Exactly.
And I see that on the OWL platform, which is a networking tool that is available 24/7, where someone could pick up the phone and call somebody and you don't have to wait around. But people always have the excuse they don't have time. And I always tell everybody that I work with, find time, do it on your commutes because you need to bridge opportunities through relationships, of course. Okay, we have our first.
I'm Brandon. I was just wondering, what is some of the most useful information you've learned from your business coach?
What the most useful information for my practice that I've learned?
How have they helped you the most?
I think really managing the time, as I said, because the time that we have in the legal profession is our commodity. Years ago, hiring a personal assistant, for example, to help me with things, I could be a lot better off billing at, my hourly rate than, running to the dry cleaner. And so while that may seem like, when you're starting out, like a lofty thing to have, it actually, if you crunch the numbers, it's much more profitable to hire people to do the things that in the practice and in your personal life, to hire people to do those things that, you don't have time for. Your time could be served elsewhere better.
Delegation.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll simplify that. When I was a financial advisor in New York City, first 5 years, I would tell the other junior advisors, you can't afford not to have an intern or an assistant to schedule meetings for you. We would go out and do seminars all the time. We had piles of leads that had to be co-called. And these were warm leads. They said they wanted to be contacted, but you sometimes have to contact them 3 to 5 times. And it was the best thing I ever did. I spent $5,000 per person, and I could literally compute that each person would make 200 to 400 meetings. And it was the best thing I ever did. It took the thing I hated the most in that industry and allowed me to focus on what I was the best in the industry, just talking with my clients and customers and really being a financial service professional to them.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ryan, and my question is for you, Robin. So you got an advanced degree after having kids, and for a lot of people, that idea of going to graduate school kind of can dwindle once they have kids. So how did you overcome that obstacle, and what advice would you give to people who are in a similar scenario?
I don't think I would advise getting a graduate degree when you have small children. The time is really a blur, and it is difficult. I think, listen, it depends on the help you have, on the support you have, and what you can do. But I was very young, and I was driven, and I just knew what I wanted to do, and I just went for it. So, if that's where you're at, you just got to make it work and tough it out for a few years.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Gabby. Like Jason was saying, I am a business student who is on the pre-law track. I'm applying to law schools right now. I wanted to know what advice you have for women in law or pursuing law.
So I actually do a lot of mentoring of young women in law. And first of all, my advice would be to just do a great job in law school, but also to start developing contacts right away, because I really do believe it's who you know, not as much what you got to be a good lawyer. You've got to know your craft, because there's a lot of good lawyers out there. But women sometimes feel that they just keep their head down and they'll do the hard work and they'll get promoted. But like in any profession, it's about the business that you build, and you want to get out there to make the right connections to get in with a firm, and then you want to build a book of business as soon as possible. As soon as you've mastered your craft, you want to get out there and get clients, because you succeed in this world by the book of business that you have.
Okay, thank you
Hope
so
that's
much.
helpful.
Yes, thank you.
All right, maybe one question.
Yeah.
Final student
So-
question from up here.
Yeah, I wanna ask in the point of students and myself. Even I'm a student. So, what are your suggestions? Like, what are your suggestions for the students who wanna get into entrepreneurship?
My recommendations for them to want to get into entrepreneurship. So, I think that you've got to be certain that you want to have a business because you want to be in entrepreneurship. I didn't know when I first went to law school that I wanted to have a business. So I went to law school, practiced law, and then quickly decided, you know what, I enjoy running the business as much, if not more, than practicing law. I read the E-Myth a long time ago, but there's a story of, a baker who loved baking and then decided to open a bakery, but was miserable because they didn't want to run the business. They wanted to bake. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, do it because you enjoy business and building things, not because you want to hone in on a particular craft. That's what my advice
It's
would
all
be.
about figuring out, I guess. It's all about figuring out, I guess.
Figuring out what makes you happy and what you want to do with your time.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay,
And
Kevin.
if you are sure that's what you want to do, then tap into all the great resources here at Florida Atlantic University. That entrepreneurship boot camp starts the first week of October, runs all of October. We're always doing seminars, events, activities, networking. We have the accelerator program, obviously. So there's a ton of resources across the campus here at Florida Atlantic in our highly ranked undergraduate and graduate program, and stay tuned. There may be some new rankings to announce pretty soon.
And can you just touch on the FAU Tech Runway? I was part of it with Owl, and you're the lead instructor there. And a lot of students can join, but a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to the show want to join the FAU Tech Runway. And I think it's important to share how important that resource is locally that we have for free and how you could apply.
Yeah, absolutely. The Runway is an accelerator program we've had for 10 years. Over that time period, it's really expanded and evolved, and it's an exciting time at the accelerator right now because we're moving into the next phase of evolution. The Runway program is moving back under the College of Business, where arguably it really belongs. And what's unique about it from a community perspective is that, unlike so many that are affiliated with universities that only specifically cater to students, our accelerator is looking for the best companies in South Florida that are otherwise unaffiliated with FAU. Certainly, we take students, faculty, recent alumni, but even those founders out there who just have a really promising startup, we'll take any of them. We're very much the Y Combinator, Techstars model, and I see some really good things in the future as we get that transition complete under the College of Business and really have all those resources right here in one spot for everybody.
Yeah. And as someone who's gone through it, I think often people think that they might be too big of a business to join it. And actually, our first episode ever on the Shrimp Tank was the original founder, Janice Haley, of Celsius Beverage, which is in my hand right now. And she went through Tech Runway after she exited from Celsius, right? She handed it off to the current CEO right now, but she jumped in and, started a fitness product. And she had to learn from folks like Kevin because it was a different industry than the beverage industry. So for sure, if you're out there listening and you want to get some good guidance from others, definitely go to the website of FAU Tech Runway and check out those programs. So Robin, this point of the show, unfortunately, has come to an end. Can you let our audience know if they want to reach out to you? What are the best routes?
You can reach out to me by email, our Bresky at SSRGA.com. You can call the law office. It's SSRGA. We have our local Florida office here in Boca, and we also have an office in New York. And feel free to reach out and contact me. And I'm on social media as well. And look forward to hopefully connecting with some of you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday right around 1 o'clock. See you later, everybody.
All right.